You know that feeling when you realize you've wasted hours in game because you just didn't realize something simple early on? Yeah, that's annoying, but you found the right video to save yourself those hours and make sure you're maximizing your time in the Forbidden West. For example, early on, you're probably going to be doing a lot of animal hunting so you can upgrade your pouches to hold more ammo and resources. But hunting those little animals can be pretty frustrating with low-level gear. The arrows are weak, the critters are small, and I swear sometimes they're just messing with you, juking all over the place. It's easy enough to find the specific animal you need to hunt by going into a pouch on the workbench and creating a job with this button right here. But if you're not having any luck actually shooting those little buggers or looting what you need, you can actually buy animal parts directly from herbalists. They are pretty pricey, but if you're having a tough time hunting, it's a good option. There's also a couple of activities that will probably just frustrate you and waste your time early on. In particular, I'm talking about the melee pits and hunting grounds, especially in the dawn. Don't get me wrong, I would come back and do these later, but early on, they're going to be pretty tough and they don't even give you XP for completing them. Even the rewards aren't that great. Completing all the melee pits and beating the enduring does give your spear a permanent damage boost, so anyone interested in trying out the melee playstyle will want to do them eventually. But you can't access them all until later anyway, and the spear upgrade isn't that significant, so I wouldn't bother with any melee pits until much later on. Now, the hunting grounds do give you medals you can use to purchase special weapons at the arena, and you'll get a legendary tripcaster for completing all the hunting grounds. But none of that gear is really critical to have, so hunting grounds are also really best left as endgame content. If you're frustrated with them, it's nice to know you won't be missing out on much by ignoring them. Speaking of getting frustrated, let's back up for a minute to the starting screen. Now, I know some of you out there are gluttons for punishment like myself and want to do ultra hard on your first playthrough. It can be done, and I'll be streaming an ultra hard playthrough from scratch myself around PC launch. But I just want to make sure you know that 1, it's really difficult and you're probably going to get really frustrated, and 2, it wasn't even an option to do ultra hard from the start when the game first launched. See, we didn't get ultra hard until after launch with the New Game Plus update, so of course you do have the option now, but ultra hard was really meant to be played on New Game Plus. And even if you've done ultra hard from scratch in Zero Dawn, ultra hard in Forbidden West is much harder, and you're locked into it for your entire game. The only way to get out of it is to finish the main story and start a New Game Plus, or just give up and start a new game. So of course you can choose whatever you want, but I would recommend at least starting on very hard and seeing how that feels for 10 hours or so. I think most people will find very hard from scratch is enough of a challenge. Whatever difficulty you choose to play on, during a fairly early main quest called the Dying Lands, you'll eventually arrive at a cave entrance. Before you go in there, make sure you're stocked up on healing berries and all other resources you need for combat. The boss fight in here is pretty tough for this stage of the game because you don't have very good gear yet. A lot of players get stuck on it for a while, and not having enough resources only makes it that much more frustrating. Also, there's a chest at the entrance of the cave with a free outfit called the Utaru Whisperer, which is a pretty decent stealth outfit for the mid-game. If you're looking for a good spot to stock up on berries ahead of time, head over to this shelter southeast of Scalding Spear. There's gotta be at least 50 plants in this one little area, which is awesome. Anyway, this is also around the time you'll unlock a special location, and there's a chest here that restocks with some resources and rare machine components after you complete each main quest. If you don't grab the loot though, it gets overwritten when you finish the next main quest, so be sure to check the chest after completing each one. It's also worth noting that you'll be able to fast travel to this special location for free from anywhere on the map, and because you can fast travel between campfires for free as well, even if you've run out of fast travel packs, you can use the campfire at the special location to go anywhere else on the map. Now, that special chest doesn't get any new loot after side quests or errands, but there's tons of rewarding side content to do. Of course, you'll find most of it through organic exploration, but it's sometimes hard to tell if you've picked up all the quests in an area, so keep an eye out for people sitting on benches who like to share rumors. Chatting with them for a second will always reveal a new errand or side quest, and it's a nice way to make sure you're not missing something in the area. For example, it's actually pretty hard to miss the gauntlet runs, but on my first playthrough, I didn't bother finishing them until much later, but I kinda wish I had. Not only do they give you a generous amount of XP, but winning all 4 will also net you the legendary Karja's Bane Warrior Bow. Maybe you haven't played around much with warrior bows, but when you know how to fire them quickly with the spread shot weapon technique, they can actually dish out a ton of damage really fast. Plus, warrior bows bow ammo is super cheap to craft, so using a warrior bow as a high DPS weapon can conserve a lot of resources. And the Karja's Bane is arguably the best warrior bow in the game, so the gauntlet runs are definitely worth doing and even prioritizing before finishing the main story. They can be a bit tricky, but the major things to remember are crouching anytime you see the off-screen warning indicator, and either whacking other riders with your spear or hitting them with an arrow whenever you can. Another easy XP activity is Machine Strike if you're interested in playing this board game inside the game. The tutorial and the first match can be found in the Chainscrape Tavern, and you'll find additional strike matches in most of the settlements. Now, I'm not much of a strike player myself, but if you want some tips on that and a ton of other stuff about Horizon, I have a great guide made by HuntKS linked in the free Horizon resource database that I created and then my friend Twinge upgraded into its current form. I link the resource database in all my video descriptions, by the way. Back out in the wilds, you're going to need to do a fair amount of climbing. I have a bunch of climbing tips in my starting tips video, but one I forgot to mention is to keep an eye out for ladders that you either need to interact with or shoot down. These are mostly found in ancient ruins and are usually a shortcut back up in case you fall. I've definitely made the mistake of not bothering to put these down and then wishing I had. As you explore and loot, you'll find your hunter's toolkit begins to fill up with a bunch of new items, making your toolkit a total mess. It can get pretty annoying having to scroll through all this stuff when you just need to get to something quickly, like a potion in the middle of a fight. You can hold down the Use Tool button to edit how items are organized, and even disable certain items from showing up at all. But unfortunately, when you loot another copy of a disabled item, it will pop up in the toolkit again. So to keep these items out of your toolkit permanently, the best solution is to get enough of that item to max out your inventory capacity for it. Then when you loot another copy, it will be forced to go to your stash instead of populating the toolkit. Not the most elegant solution, but it is the best way to keep the toolkit tidy. I also wish I had been looting Leap Lasher pods early on in my first playthrough. Of course, there's plenty of chests and loot all over, but you can also find piles of Leap Lasher pods near Leap Lasher sites, and these can have a lot of useful resources in them. Plus, unlike chests, they will actually respawn, so you can farm them by fast traveling back and forth. Most of the Leap Lasher sites are in the southern part of No Man's Land. While we're in the map here, I also wanted to make sure you know that you can turn off different layers if you want to focus on something in particular, or if you just feel the map is too cluttered. Keep in mind though that even with all the icons on, there are a number of unmarked machine sites to discover around the map, which is pretty cool, so keep an eye out for those. Speaking of machines, in Zero Dawn, fire was pretty effective against many of them because of the burning damage over time effect. It still works that way in Forbidden West, but the damage over time has been nerfed, and a lot of machines are now resistant to fire. So you generally don't want to use fire unless you're trying to trigger a blaze canister, and even then there's usually something more effective you can do. So yeah, buying gear for fire ammo generally isn't worth it, but perhaps my biggest tip for you is to never sell any gear once you have it. I know it can be tempting to recoup some shards as you get better stuff, but trust me, you'll regret it. You don't really get that many resources for selling gear, and sometimes you'll realize that a lower rarity weapon you got rid of was actually better than something new you picked up because the ammo types or perks are better, or just because you had already spent the resources to upgrade the old piece of gear and you haven't done that for the new one yet. Also, if you sell an outfit, then you can't use the apply look feature, which lets you equip one outfit for its stats but take on the appearance of another outfit you like the look of more. Now, if you do sell something you want to get back, you can go to the buyback section of the merchant inventory to get it, but only the last 30 items are found here, so there's a very good chance you'll lose it permanently, especially if it's a piece of gear that came from a quest. In that case, the only way to get it back would be on a New Game Plus run. Another reason not to sell an outfit in particular is because they come with a unique skill boosting weave locked on them, and there's only one copy of each of these in the game. You need to upgrade the outfit to unlock the weave and remove it to use on other outfits, so you at least want to keep an outfit until you can do that. Now, my one exception to the no gear selling rule would be with certain green weapons early on. Most players don't realize that if you fully upgrade a weapon, when you sell it, you'll actually get different resources than what went into upgrading it. In the early game, you can use this to your advantage to get some machine components that would be otherwise hard to get. For example, selling a fully upgraded knockdown sharpshot bow will net you bellowback sack webbing, but to upgrade the bow, the only unique component you needed comes from Leap Lashers. It's a pretty niche trick, but a good one to keep in your back pocket. Now, just like in Zero Dawn, weapons and outfits can be equipped and modified with coils and weaves, but I think a lot of players forget this is is an important aspect of the game, especially early on when your weapons and outfit could use any boost they can get. You'll figure out pretty quick that purple coils are the best you can get in the base game, but don't ignore using green and blue ones. The stats for blue coils in particular aren't too far off their purple equivalent, so they can certainly make a notable difference. Plus, they're much easier to get than purple ones. Now, unlike Zero Dawn, you won't be able to farm many types of coils from machines anymore. Instead, pretty much all the good ones come from merchants and looting specific quest machines. So there's a limited quantity in a single playthrough. And it's a similar story for the outfit weaves. However, the green +1 weaves are for sale from a few merchants, and they're much more affordable. If you want to see where to find all the best coils and weaves, I have a video for that and an accompanying spreadsheet that shows you everything you would want to know. But we also have a new way to boost your weapons damage. Actually two: Valor Surges and weapon techniques. We dive much deeper into both of these and how they work in my combat masterclass, but what I want to make sure you know right now is that not all Valor Surges will work with weapon techniques. For example, a really common combo people try to use is the Power Shots Valor Surge with the Focus Shot weapon technique. But Power Shots won't work with Focus Shot. In fact, other than double and triple notch, Power Shots doesn't work with any weapon techniques. So it's a total waste to try to use it with them. It's not totally obvious, and it's honestly a bit confusing because some Valor Surges do work fine with weapon techniques, like Ranged Master for example. So I just wanted to make sure you had that tip. And to dive into all the other key tips you need to know to get the most out of Forbidden West, you're going to want to watch this video right here. I'm going to head over there right now. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you over there in just a second.